Welcome to Catholic Answers Live, the program where you participate with your questions about apologetics and evangelization, including the most important theological, spiritual, moral, and social issues facing the world today. Call now with your question for today's guest. Toll free 1-888-31-TRUTH. That's 888-318-7884. Now, from San Diego, Catholic Answers Live.
Hello and welcome back to a brand new week of Catholic Answers Live. I am Cy Kellett, your well-rested host. Very happy to be back in the studio today. Thanks to everyone who filled in for me, including Chris Check, who I heard it was a terrible struggle when Chris was here. I don't know, Trent, did you do any days with Chris? No?
In the words of Colonel Klink, I know nothing.
Oh, okay, all right.
Really, I actually don't know anything.
Okay. That's funny. Follow up to Colonel Klink with the sincere, in all
seriousness, I know nothing.
I know nothing. Today we're reaching out to pro-choice folks. If you're pro-choice, or maybe you're convinced that a woman's right to choose abortion must be preserved in law, we welcome your call today. Today is the 45th anniversary of the Roe versus Wade decision, in which the United States Supreme Court created a legal right to abortion essentially on demand throughout pregnancy everywhere in the United States. Perhaps you're a pro-choice person and you celebrate this day, or maybe you're just someone who's personally opposed to abortion but believe it should be legal. Well, this entire program is for you today. Why are you pro-choice? 888-318-7884. If you'd like to answer that question for us and engage in some discussion about it, why are you pro-choice? 888-318-7884. Taking your questions today, Catholic Answers apologist Trent Horn. Trent's a convert to Catholicism, the author of many books, including most recently The Case for Catholicism from Ignatius Press. But today we focus on his book a little bit on persuasive pro-life and 20 Answers about abortion, one of the books from the 20 Answers Catholic series. Trent, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Always glad to be here.
And glad to know that you actually know nothing. But when you say that, you're in reference to Chris Check's fill-in hosting while I was away.
That's correct. But I'm sure it did well. I have complete confidence in the boss.
Well, if you're going to have confidence
and
in someone...
and in Chris Check as well.
Yeah. So. Well, if Chris Check is not the boss, who is? I should say that your book, Persuasive Pro-Life, How to Talk About Our Culture's Toughest Issue, is very accessible pro-life book, very helpful pro-life book, but you also have the video, Making the Case for Life. And I should also say that anyone who calls today and gets on the air, if we can get their address, we're going to send them one of these two. They get their choice of Persuasive Pro-Life, the book, or Making the Case for Life, the video. For those of you who don't get through, they're both on sale for $5. Anyway, just go to shop.catholic.com and you can have each of them for $5. 888-318-7884, the number. Trent, you have a post on, is it Catholic Answers Magazine?
Yes.
It's called 5 Myths About Roe versus Wade. What do you mean myths about Roe versus Wade?
Well, simply that, and I thought it was appropriate to post this now, given that it's the 45th anniversary of Roe versus Wade, that many people don't understand the decision. They don't understand it, what it did, the background leading up to it, what's come from it. And so, given that it's a big part of American legal history, there are a lot of myths that need to be cleared up. So this article, I talk about 5 very common ones associated with the Supreme Court's decision that made abortion legal in the United States, or at least prevented us from outlawing abortion.
And you start with this idea that abortion was only made legal in the first 3 months, or what's sometimes called the first trimester of pregnancy. Why is that a myth?
Well, it's a myth because Roe divides pregnancy up into 3 trimesters and sets a legal framework for each of them, saying that abortion cannot be restricted in any way in the first 12 weeks of pregnancy or the first 3 months, the first trimester. It says you could restrict it in the second trimester if it's for a woman's health. And it says in the third trimester, the last 3 months of pregnancy, you can outlaw abortion, but you have to provide an exception if a woman's life or health is in danger. The problem with this is that the Supreme Court's companion case, Roe's companion case that was decided at the same time, Doe versus Bolton, defined health. What is health? Health is anything physical, emotional, psychological, familial, or age-related. It's an exception so large you can drive a large truck through it, basically. So it's almost impossible to outlaw any abortions, because you can almost find a physician anywhere who can say a woman has a health problem. I mean, Dr. Warren Hearn, who does late-term abortions in Colorado, has himself argued in print that the fact that a child is unwanted is a health reason. That just having an unwanted pregnancy itself is a health reason and justifies abortion. So, and really, Roe doesn't use that trimester framework anymore ever since Planned Parenthood versus Casey. So now it's just basically past viability. You in theory could outlaw abortion, but with the exceptions that are involved, in practice you really can't. It's legal through all 9 months of pregnancy for virtually any reason.
And you don't cover this in here, but that's unusual throughout the world. Even we think of like these libertine European countries like France or something that they don't have these laws. They don't.
No, most Western democracies, countries in Europe, now there's some that restrict abortion a lot, like Ireland and Poland, only allowed in very, very difficult cases, like if a woman's life is in danger. But in other countries like France or Spain or Germany, it's usually cut off at the second trimester or at the end of the second trimester. The only countries that allow elective abortion, there's only a handful that allow it through all 9 months of pregnancy for basically any reason. I think China and North Korea are some of the handful that do, and we ignominiously are one of them.
Yeah. But you say it's also a myth that a majority of Americans support Roe versus Wade.
Yeah, this one's kind of a half-truth. I mean, I've seen this hashtag circulating on social media saying, 7 in 10 for Roe, 7 in 10 for Roe, that 70% of Americans support Roe versus Wade. And I link in the piece to a 2013 poll that show, 70% say you should not overturn Roe versus Wade. But in that same poll, 41% of people said they didn't know enough about Roe versus Wade to say if they didn't like it or not.
Wow.
And in another poll, 56% of young people did not know Roe versus Wade was about abortion.
Oh, Lord, wow.
So it's like you'll ask people, should Roe v. Wade overturned? No, they shouldn't overturn it. Well, what's it about? No, I don't really know. It's just people don't want something overturned, or they don't want something that's legal to become illegal. But if they knew, but the thing is, you can smash this statistic in a heartbeat. 7 in 10 are in favor of Roe. Well, Roe versus Wade allows abortion through all 9 months of pregnancy for any reason. Actually, that's only 1 in 4. Only 1 in 4 people wants abortion, wants no restrictions on abortion. And some polls put that as low as like 15%. So the majority of people would like abortion restricted more than Roe versus Wade allows.
888-318-7884, our number, as you can probably guess from the tenor of our conversation. Trent and I are both pro-life people. But we are more than happy to take your calls. As a matter of fact, we're asking for your call if you are a pro-choice person, if you support abortion, if you see abortion as maybe an inalienable right or a right of some sort, and you believe it's a right that should be protected. We would like to have a conversation with you about that. 888-318-7884, 888-31-TRUTH, if you prefer it that way. Let's try one more myth before we have to take a break. But among the myths here is that, hundreds of thousands of women's lives have been saved because we no longer have back alley abortions.
Right, and there's this idea, you would have heard Walter Cronkite and other people saying 5,000 to 10,000 women every year were dying from back alley abortions prior to Roe versus Wade. And this simply isn't true. Bernard Nathanson, who helped to make abortion legal, and he later converted and became pro-life, and in his memoirs he admitted, we made up those statistics because they were useful to get the laws passed, but that just wasn't the case. Mary Calderon, former president of Planned Parenthood, in 1960 she said 90% of abortions are being done in doctors' offices. When I checked the Centers for Disease Control, in 1972, I think it said something like there were 39 women who had died from illegal abortions, or from abortion in general. 25 were from legal abortions. Now, any death from abortion is tragic, whether it is a child or the mother. It's tragic. But the answer to this problem is not to make it legal so it's safer for a big person to kill a little person. Abortion is not safe today because half the people involved in the procedure die. So the answer to keeping people safe is to make abortion illegal, not to keep it legal.
888-318-7884, the number. Trent Horn, the author of Persuasive Pro-Life, How to Talk About Our Culture's Toughest Issue, is our guest this hour. If you are pro-choice, if you are in favor of legalized abortion, give us a call on this Roe versus Wade anniversary. We'd love to talk about it with you. Again, 888-318-7884 is the number. We'll be right back with more after this on Catholic Answers Live.
Don't you just love listening to Trent Horn? Did you know you can book Trent or any of our other great speakers to speak at your parish or special event? Contact one of our seminar coordinators through the Speakers Bureau section on Catholic.com today to find out more information.
January is Pro-Life Month, and to get as many people as we can involved in the pro-life cause, we're making Trent Horn's book Persuasive Pro-Life and his DVD, Making the Case for Life, available for just $5 each. That's a savings of over 70%. Both the book and the DVD were made specifically with you in mind, to help you engage in sustained and meaningful dialogue and to give you the tools you need to change people's hearts and minds so that together we might build up a pro-life culture, one person, one conversation at a time. To get your copies of the book, Persuasive Pro-Life, or the DVD, Making the Case for Life, for just $5 each, just call 1-888-291-8000 or visit the shop at Catholic.com.
Is it possible to know when life begins? Shouldn't women be able to control their own bodies? What if a pregnant woman's life is in danger? In 20 Answers Abortion, you'll find smart, solid answers to these questions and many more. You'll deepen your understanding of this critical moral issue and gain the knowledge you need to explain it to others. 20 Answers Abortion is part of the 20 Answers series from Catholic Answers, offering hard facts, powerful arguments, and clear explanations of the most important topics facing the Church and the world, all in a compact, easy-to-read package. Visit shop.catholic.com and take a look at this exciting new series from Catholic Answers Press.
Homeschool Connections, an online provider of courses for your Catholic homeschool, is a sponsor of Catholic Answers Live. Homeschool Connections website is homeschoolconnections.com.
Call now with your question. 888-318-7884. This is Catholic Answers Live.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. On this 45th anniversary of Roe versus Wade, we are sharing some of the myths about Roe versus Wade, as Trent Horn has written about in Catholic Answers magazine online, that you can get by going to Catholic.com. And we are asking you, if you are a pro-choice person, why are you pro-choice? If you can call and tell us why you're pro-choice, we'd love to have a conversation about it. We try to keep everything civil, and when we are on our very best behavior, beyond civil, charitable. So we're not looking for fights or that kind of thing. We want to have conversations. 888-318-7884 is the number. 888-318-7884. Trent, I know we got a couple more of those myths to get to, but I don't want to shortchange any callers or let any callers go that want to get through. So we'll get back to the remaining myths, but let's go to John in Cleveland, Ohio. Watching on YouTube. Thanks for watching on YouTube, John. Your question why are you pro-choice?
I'm pro-choice. I mean, I'm not. I could change my mind. I guess that's why I called my show. But I'm pro-choice because a couple reasons. One reason is I speak to a couple friends and scientists actually, and they said that there's no proof that actually the fetus is an organism at any time is an organism.
You spoke to a scientist, John, who said there's no proof a fetus is an organism?
Well, I mean, he was a college student.
Okay. Well, I would say that's a very misinformed college student. What is a fetus?
He says it's just a blob of cells, that they're not organisms because organisms only could survive. Meaning of an organism, something that could survive by itself, and a fetus cannot survive by itself, so therefore it's not an organism.
Okay, well, that's actually not the definition of an organism. An organism is an individual living thing. For example, is a parasite an organism?
I don't know. I'm not really a scientist.
Well, let's say, do you know what a parasite is?
I'm not really sure. What is a parasite? I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. A parasite would be an organism that feeds off of a host in order to live. So it's an organism, but it's dependent on other organisms to live. So if you eat poorly cooked food, for example, there might be a tapeworm or something in there, and then it gets in your body and it sucks nutrients from your body to live. And so it's certainly an organism. It's alive, and it's growing. I mean, the unborn is absolutely an organism because it's growing and it's developing in the womb. The fetus is this, like, I would challenge you to do this. Go online and look up the definition of a fetus. And any medical dictionary, any biology textbook you come across, and in Persuasive Pro-Life, the book we will send you if you like it, in there I put what the definition of a fetus is. Fetus is the stage of development in the life of a human organism. You can only have a stage of development if you're an organism. Like skin cells and cancer cells, they don't have stages of development like embryo, fetus, or toddler. Only organisms do. So fetus refers to the time in the life of a human being from 8 weeks after they're conceived until birth. And what I'm saying is that it's wrong to kill a human being just because they're at that stage in the development of their life. And I think we should value human beings through every stage, whether they're an embryo, a fetus, an infant, a toddler, or an adult. So does that make sense?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. But I mean, would people, is it universal that a fetus is a organism? I mean, universally, is it universal? I mean, if I go to a science book, would it say that's an organism, like a science book, like?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Look in Persuasive Pro-Life. I cite several developmental biology texts, and there is one text I remember citing. I don't remember right off the top of my head the title of it, but I do remember that one of the chapters in the book, I think it was Scott, might be the gentleman who wrote the book. It was his last name. I don't remember, but I remember that the title of one of the chapters was Fertilization, the Beginning of a New Organism. So, yeah, if you look in there, and so why don't you stay on the line and we will get your information from our call screener, and you can go to Persuasive Pro-Life. There's a chapter called this Answering the Skeptics, and there I have a list of things like Langman's Embryology, Human Embryology and Teratology by O'Rahilly and Mueller, and several other textbooks and science books that are listed there that is beyond doubt. Even pro-choice advocates who are sophisticated, who know the issue, will agree the unborn is a human organism. There is absolutely no doubt on that question. And I would say just look up the terms embryo and fetus. They refer to stages of development in the life of a human being or a human organism. So I hope that's helpful for you.
Thank you.
Okay, John, now don't go anywhere. Hang on, because we're giving away a free copy of Persuasive Pro-Life, the book, or Making the Case for Life, the video, to everybody who gets through today. So you got a free copy coming to you. Matter of fact, I think John said he's open to the possibility that a fetus is life. So I think we should send him both. Can you do that, Nick? Can you send him both? Nick says yes. He can send him both.
You were giving away everything here.
That's my first time ever doing that when you're on, Trent, giving away your stuff for free.
There you go. Yeah.
888-318-7884 is the number. The question of the hour, why are you pro-choice? If you are a pro-choice person, we are happy to speak with you about it. Trent Horn is our guest, and we go now to Leanne in Charleston, South Carolina. Leanne, why are you pro-choice? Leanne?
Hello?
Oh, hi, Leanne. Why are you pro-choice?
Oh, sorry, I didn't know. I couldn't hear. Well, I was explaining, I guess, to your producer the reason why I've felt that it was important to make an issue of it is that, in Charleston, South Carolina, Nikki Haley insisted on having the post-20-week abortion law passed, in Columbia. So prior to that, I contacted the Lauren Foster as the reporter and told her my story, which was I was 5.5 months pregnant, and I had a child that had been diagnosed with anencephaly and full trisomy 18, therefore it was 100% terminal. And that was before they passed that law. So at that point, that was back in 2010, but yet TRICARE would not cover the procedure. So I was told that I would have to go to Georgia if I wanted to go to a facility where Planned Parenthood funded any of it, or they could take care of it at MUSC, which is a very famous hospital in Charleston, South Carolina. So we were obviously devastated. We elected to have the procedure at MUSC, but we had to pay 100%, on a credit card. So things like policymakers consider the consequences when they're passing these laws.
Okay. First, Leanne, I want to say that I'm very sorry to hear that your child was diagnosed with anencephaly, which is a condition that prevents, for our listeners who don't know, it's a condition that prevents the brain from continuing to develop. And so the child, their development stops and they'll die within a few weeks, months, shortly thereafter. And trisomy 18, which I believe is called Edwards syndrome, that causes holes in the child's heart and lungs to develop. And so it sounds like your child had a very short life ahead of them because of the negative medical complications that arose. And I'm sorry that you had to go through this, because I'm sure before you received this diagnosis, you would have never considered having an abortion.
No, of course not.
Right.
I just wanted to clarify that the trisomy 18, that's like a severe form of spina bifida.
Okay.
Had the child had one diagnosis or the other, there would have been a short-term survival rate. But the combination of the two,
Right.
I was advised by the doctors at MUSC that it was a 0% chance of survival.
Right. Sure.
So,
And I understand how difficult that would be to go through, but here's how I think we should look at the situation whenever we have something like this. And as a parent, I can definitely sympathize if your child is sick. You want to provide comfort for them. You want to help them as much as you can. But I don't think that that does not justify taking an action that directly ends their life, or what would be called mercy killing. So, for example, suppose we had like a 3-year-old who was diagnosed with something like Tay-Sachs disease, a degenerative brain disease, or they're diagnosed with some other terminal disease and they're going to die in a few months. So let's say we have a born child, like a toddler, who has a terminal illness. Do you think we should provide that child comfort and let them pass away naturally? Or do you think it'd be okay to directly kill that 3-year-old through something like euthanasia?
I don't think that the situations are entirely similar. I think that it's a decision between the parents and the doctor, and you're never looking to euthanize anyone. You're always trying to consider, what is the child going through? How are you going to make the things, go to where they experience the least pain possible?
Right. Well,
there are specialists.
Sure, but Leanne, that's what euthanasia is. It's mercy killing. It's the idea of ending someone's life so they don't have to suffer. And so I understand this was something emotional and difficult you went through, but it doesn't justify, however, doing this for any child, whether they're born or unborn. I also have another question for you. I would wonder about, do you think abortions at 18 weeks or 20 weeks, would you be in favor of abortions being done even if the child is perfectly healthy?
There are already laws that have set, a respectable time period. Now they're getting more conservative. If you still think that my decision was, quote, a mercy killing, that is not the scenario. The movement was already, beginning to cease. I was spotting. If I had not been able to put it on a credit card or drive to another state, they were asking me to walk around until I spontaneously, went into preterm labor or self-aborted, or, that's dangerous on the mother. You're having a fetus slowly dying inside of you.
Right.
Not to mention the mental
right.
implications of that, and emotional when you're still a functioning citizen with a full-time 9 to 5 and another child to take care of.
Right. I understand that that's very, very difficult. And the Catholic Church even teaches that if a child is in the process of dying and it's late during this procedure, especially 19 or 20 weeks, which is around the time of viability, that it's possible that if the child is dying and a person's going into labor already, that one can facilitate that labor for, to help protect the mother's health, provided that you're not directly ending the child's life. But once again, I think we have to take a step back and say, would we treat a 3-year-old, a 1-year-old this same way, that we would end their life just because they have a terminal illness? Now, it's just awful to know a child is dying. We wouldn't want a child to suffer. But we cross a line we shouldn't cross when we decide that we're going to directly end their life to ease their suffering, because that leads to euthanasia. It leads to all sorts of things that doctors shouldn't do. Doctors should heal, treat pain. They should not kill their patients, including the unborn ones. So I hope our viewers will pray for you, and you'll
And hang
consider what
on,
we
Leanne.
talked about.
Don't go anywhere, Leanne. We have to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more. Why are you pro-choice on Catholic Answers Live? And Leanne, hang on.
Catholic Answers Live.
EWTN, helping people grow in their love and understanding of God.
I was raised Catholic, but then went to the other side and tried to commit suicide a couple of times several years ago. My savior happened to be a Catholic priest here locally, and I wanted to say, though, surrounding myself with people like yourself and this radio station. This morning I felt kind of alone, and then I was like, oh yeah, EWTN. Oh, I love it.
Did the Catholic Church add books to the Bible? Or did Protestants remove 7 books from the Old Testament? Why Catholic Bibles Are Bigger takes you on a fact-filled tour through the history of the Bible, revealing the whole story behind the lost books of the Protestant Old Testament. With the latest information and discourse on crucial issues, Why Catholic Bibles Are Bigger is a book that belongs in the library of every serious student of Scripture. And as a special bonus, if you order online, we'll add an ebook copy of 15 Myths, Mistakes, and Misrepresentations about the Deuterocanon to your order absolutely free. Get your free ebook today. Order your copy of Why Catholic Bibles Are Bigger by logging on to our online shop at shop.catholic.com.
Just like the saints of the Counter-Reformation, our own souls are in constant need of reform, of reconversion to God and His will for us. We struggle with sin. We become distracted in prayer. We find it hard to be loving and easy to be selfish. In Reform Yourself, Sean McAfee shows you how these magnificent saints can be guides to your own personal transformation. We all need to reform our souls. Let the saints who reformed the church show you how. Order your copy of Reform Yourself today by calling 1-888-291-8000, visiting the shop at Catholic.com, or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. I am Cy Kellett, your host. Our guest is Trent Horn. Trent is the author of Persuasive Pro-Life, How to Talk About Our Culture's Toughest Issue and Making the Case for Life. A video, well, I shouldn't say he's the author of the video. He's the, what do we say? What's the word for that? Superstar of the video. And we're happy to send you either of these. If you are a caller who gets through on the line today, we want to send them to you. And if you are pro-choice, our question for this hour is, why are you pro-choice? We asked this in part because it is the 45th anniversary of the Roe versus Wade decision, a decision that has, I suppose the word controversial doesn't quite sum it up. It's in every sense has been a controversial and difficult decision. It's not one that we support. We are, in fact, pro-life, but we would love to talk with you if you are a pro-choice person and would like to tell us why you are pro-choice. 888-318-7884. 888-318-7884. We were talking about the myths of Roe versus Wade before. Trent, did you want to follow up with our conversation? I'm sorry that we had to interrupt you in the midst of your conversation with Leanne before, but some breaks are hard breaks, and that was a hard one. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add to that, or if you wanted to continue with the myths of Roe versus Wade.
No, I'm happy to continue with that, though I think that what Leanne brought up is certainly a very difficult case.
Yeah.
And what makes it difficult, though, is, of course, the emotions that are involved when a person receives a diagnosis that their child essentially has a terminal illness or terminal condition, and that the child is going to die somewhere in the pregnancy or shortly thereafter. And so what do we do in this circumstance? And there are going to be doctors who recommend abortion, and that's understandable in the sense that abortion is legal. And so doctors will usually choose options that incur the least amount of liability for them. And so ending a pregnancy, it always reduces liability for them versus continuing a pregnancy and facilitating a birth. So there's something important for our listeners to remember. Doctors are not infallible. Doctors are not always going to make the best moral decisions. And says, well, a doctor told me to do this. Doctors might be experts in medicine, but they are not experts in morality. That is why we get ethics committees to second guess and check what they do. And doctors disagree amongst themselves. There are Catholic doctors who, I would say, if anyone listening has been diagnosed with something like a pregnancy with anencephaly, spina bifida, any kind of condition that could be terminal, go and make sure you get a second opinion from a Catholic OBGYN and a Catholic doctor who specializes in high-risk pregnancies. Because the bottom line is, we have to maintain this same moral principle. If a child is dying, we should provide comfort for that child to allow them to pass naturally. We should not directly kill the child. We would not directly kill a 3-year-old who is dying from an injury or a disease. We shouldn't do the same to a child in the womb. Now, there may come a point where the child dies in the womb, and if the child is dead, they may be removed with an abortion procedure. But this is not a direct abortion because the child is already alive. The abortion doesn't kill the child. The disease has killed them. The body is now just being removed in order to protect the woman's health and life. But if the child is alive and they're dying, even though it's very, very difficult, we cannot kill someone just because they are at the end of their life. If that's something we cross, it becomes a very dangerous principle in medicine.
It does. It seems to me important that you say that too, because I think there are very many women, very many couples who, in a sense, are victimized by doctors. Who this is the easiest course for the doctor, and so the doctor says abort the child.
Oh, absolutely, Cy, and especially that they're like doctors who even think that maybe they could bring a child to term healthy and deliver them to be healthy. There are doctors who have done that who have been sued for wrongful birth.
Yeah, right.
So they've been sued that, if they failed, for example, if a doctor fails to communicate a diagnosis that a child has Down syndrome, for example, the child is born with Down syndrome, and they fail to communicate that fact, they could be sued for wrongful life or wrongful birth. Wrongful life especially is a hideous phrase.
Isn't it?
That the idea is that, well, I would have aborted this child if you would have told me, so doctor, you're at fault here and I'm suing you for not giving me information that would have impelled me to have an abortion. So doctors have been sued for wrongful life, but hardly any. I've never heard of a doctor being sued for wrongful abortion, for aborting a child, and it turned out they didn't have Down syndrome.
Right.
So as I said, as the pregnancy continues and you give birth, the liabilities and risks for physicians increase. So some will want to cut their losses and try to take the least risky path, which for many of them will consider to be abortion, and people of good faith and good conscience are misled by these medical quote-unquote professionals.
888-318-7884 is our number, 888-318-7884. If you are pro-choice and would like to share with us why you are pro-choice, we are here and happy to take that call. 888-318-7884. And, I suppose there's the other level too, and I want to get to more of your myths and then back to callers, Trent. But I suppose there's also the fact that a doctor can make us feel better about a decision that we maybe in our heart know we shouldn't make. In other words, we're responsible as parents for our children and for our choices and all that. And the medical community is so confused and conflicted and has so many different motivations here. You have to take responsibility when you go in there. When a doctor says,
you do, and that's why doctors, they have to that's why it's important to get second opinions on lots of things. But especially when hey, wait, this guy is recommending something that violates my faith, my conscience, seems to be a bad idea. Go and get advice from somebody else. And I think it's just important to do that. And that's why we have to be well-formed. Those of us who are pro-life, who believe all life has dignity, basic rights, and we should protect human beings from the moment that they begin to exist until the end of their lives. we should protect them. And that was historically in medicine. All doctors believed that. The Hippocratic Oath, one of the first medical oaths, said do no harm was one of its major points. And another point in the Hippocratic Oath from the ancient physician Hippocrates was, I will not prescribe a pessary or anything to induce abortion.
Yeah.
And of course, that's really changed a lot today.
Boy, has it. 888-318-7884 is the number. 888-318-7884. Another myth about Roe versus Wade before we go back to callers. Roe versus Wade is a sound legal argument for abortion.
Yeah, this point is actually, even many scholars who defend legal abortion or who are pro-choice don't believe Roe versus Wade has a very good argument at all. The problem is that Roe grounds abortion. Roe versus Wade does not answer the question about whether the unborn is a human person. It's agnostic on that point. It just basically says, well, there's a right to privacy, and the right to privacy includes medical decisions. Abortion's a medical decision. Therefore, abortion should be legal, and abortion laws in the past were just meant to protect women, and now abortion's safe, so we don't need them anymore. Historically, that's wrong. We can tell the very first abortion laws were passed in the U.S. because it was considered an act of homicide to obtain abortion and to perform abortion on a pregnant woman because you're killing the child. And second, the right to privacy itself is not in the Constitution. It's considered to be in the penumbra, this ethereal set of rights outside of the Constitution that first showed up in Griswold v. Connecticut that that said states had to be able to sell contraceptives to married couples if they requested it. So that's why in the blog, in the article, I talk about how Edward Lazarus, who was a former clerk to the Supreme Court justice who issued the Roe versus Wade decision, that he said even that the case is essentially indefensible.
888-318-7884 is our number. We'll go now to Vicky in Pensacola, Florida, listening on 103.3 FM. Vicky, why are you pro-choice?
Hello?
Hi, Vicky. You are on the air with Trent Horn. Why are you pro-choice?
I'm pro-choice. I'm not about these late-term abortions. I think if you can have your own decision to do what you want with your own body. And I really am offended at some of the things you guys have said, especially to your last caller, which was obviously a health concern. You call it basically murder, or what she had to do, because she opted to, and it is easing suffering for a newborn baby. I don't know if you've ever been into a NICU. And some of those babies are truly suffering.
Vicky, in that caller, Vicky, I said that the act that they took part in was a mercy killing, that the child is dying but had not died yet. And so an abortion that intervened would have ended the child's life for reasons to alleviate the child's suffering. Isn't that exactly what happened?
Rather it be born and then have to suffer a death.
Vicky, Vicky, I would ask you this question in response to that. I don't think a child should be killed just because they're at the end of their life. You mentioned that you've seen children in NICU units, newborn babies who are sick, who are suffering. Do you think that we should directly kill a newborn baby in a NICU unit because they are sick or they're suffering?
We'll do it to an animal.
Should we do it to a newborn baby?
Because we say we're reducing their suffering. We'll let people die from cancer. I had a friend that had brain cancer. It was horrible her last couple of days of life because they would not give her a shot to let her go to sleep. And she lived her last few years or last few days totally blind and horribly suffering. I think that's more of a crime of humanity.
So, Vicky, let me understand where you're coming from, because I agree that if someone is dying, if they're at the end of their life and they're in pain, it is acceptable to give them pain control medication, even if that medication might indirectly shorten their life. But human beings, we euthanize animals because we don't feel like animals are worthy of medical treatment. It's easier just to kill them. but we shouldn't treat humans like animals. So I'm going to pose the question directly to you again, because I think your view on abortion is tied up in a larger view on human life, which is this. Do you think we should directly kill a human being just because they are suffering?
Yes.
Okay, let's see. Where would you draw the line? If somebody, let me ask you a question, Vicky. Where would you ever draw the line and not do that? Let's say somebody been in an accident and they're in a wheelchair and they don't want to live the rest of their life that way, and they ask us to kill them. Should we comply with their request?
I think it's a personal choice, and I don't think that bringing the Catholic Church into it should, unless they have an unbound amount of faith and they want to live, I think it's a personal choice.
So, Vicky, if someone in a wheelchair wants to die, we should help them kill themselves?
I think Dr. Gavachian had a decent point in some of his mercy killing.
Did you say Dr. Kevorkian? Dr. Death?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I am very hesitant to want to take advice from a man who himself admitted he got a thrill and excitement staring into the eyes of people the moment they died. So Dr. Kevorkian is a very, well, he doesn't really deserve the title of doctor, frankly, unless it's appended to his popular nickname he supported, which is Dr. Death. So I hope that this has been a helpful conversation, Vicky. Unfortunately, we've reached an impasse, though I think, though, that from people who are listening can see our principles for how we treat born people are going to follow up for how we treat unborn people. So if you think we should kill born people, if they're suffering in any way, shape, or form, kill a born person, well, then it makes perfect sense. Why not kill an unborn child for that reason? And so we see what Pope St. John Paul II said, that when you support legal abortion, it doesn't stop at abortion. It creates what he called a culture of death. It creates a culture that values death and ending suffering more than valuing life, no matter how weak or helpless it may be. And as pro-lifers, we oppose abortion and euthanasia because we want to cultivate a culture of life, not a culture of death.
Thank you very much, Vicky, for that call. We do have to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more. Trent Horn, the question of the hour: why are you pro-choice? If you'd like to answer that question for us, give us a call, 888-318-7884. We'll be right back after this with Catholic Answers Live.
Why are you pro-choice? Call now. Trent is waiting to talk to you.
January is Pro-Life Month, and to get as many people as we can involved in the pro-life cause, we're making Trent Horn's book, Persuasive Pro-Life, available for just $5 a copy. That's a savings of over 70%. This book was made specifically with you in mind, to help you engage in sustained and meaningful dialogue, and to give you the tools you need to change people's hearts and minds, so that together we might build up a pro-life culture, one person, one conversation at a time. To get your copies of the book Persuasive Pro-Life for just $5 each, call 1-888-291-8000 or visit the shop at Catholic.com.
Just like the saints of the Counter-Reformation, our own souls are in constant need of reform, of reconversion to God and His will for us. We struggle with sin. We become distracted in prayer. We find it hard to be loving and easy to be selfish. In Reform Yourself, Sean McAfee shows you how these magnificent saints can be guides to your own personal transformation. We all need to reform our souls. Let the saints who reformed the church show you how. Order your copy of Reform Yourself today by calling 1-888-291-8000, visiting the shop at Catholic.com, or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
You've heard that St. Paul Street Evangelization supports hundreds of teams of evangelists sharing the good news. But did you know that some of these teams are public prayer stations? Set up a sign on the sidewalk and offer prayer and encouragement to those you encounter. Everyone needs prayer. Try this new method of witnessing to Jesus. Contact St. Paul Street Evangelization to get started at streetevangelization.com. That's streetevangelization.com.
Call now with your question. 888-318-7884. This is Catholic Answers Live.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. I am Cy Kellett, your host. Our guest is Trent Horn, the author of Persuasive Pro-Life, How to Talk About Our Culture's Toughest Issue, a book which we are giving away free to any caller who gets through on the line today. Or that caller can opt out of the book and take the video, Making the Case for Life, How to Talk About America's Toughest Issue, Trent Horn's DVD. You can have either one. If you get through, just hang on long enough to give us your address and we'll send it out to you. We go now to Ben in Lewiston, Minnesota, listening on the Presence Radio. Is the Presence in Minnesota or is that Maine? Hang on a second, Ben. Let me just push the right button here and we'll talk to Ben. I think that's Maine. How are you, Ben? Are you in Maine?
Hey, I'm doing all right. How are you, Cy?
I am well. Is the Presence Radio is in Maine, right?
No, yeah. The Presence Radio is in Maine. It's Lewiston, Maine.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, so you're a pro-choice. Why are you pro-choice, Ben?
I am pro-choice. And forgive me if I'm a little bit rattled. The call screener asked me why I favored abortion, which I do not.
Okay.
I am staunchly opposed to abortion in any individual situation, but I don't think that just because I have the value system that tells me that life begins at conception and all human life has value, I don't think imposing that value system from a governmental standpoint is the best, most efficient, or most effective way to eliminate the culture of death and turn us towards a culture of life.
Okay, Ben, this is interesting. It seems that you're making a pragmatic argument. I mean, you may also be making a moral argument in that you don't think it's right to put your particular value system into the law. You didn't say that, and we could discuss it if you also feel that way. But you said you didn't think it was the most effective way to reduce abortion. Why do you think that?
Well, because I guess we can look at the last 30 years, right? Or the last few decades, as abortion has become more and more of a prominent issue, and it's become more and more of a political talking point. It's become a way to ensure a certain demographic of people will vote for your party.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that the pro-life movement or the pro-life argument was created or hinges on getting people to vote a certain way in elections. What's really sad, though, and I don't want to talk about politics too much on the show, but there is certainly one political party in the United States where the vast, vast majority, almost all pro-life advocates, find themselves in. The other major political party, 20, 30 years ago, many people in that party were pro-life. However, that party over the past several few decades has slowly purged its pro-life members so that it's just politically impossible to be someone who's pro-life and be within that party. And, unfortunately, if that's what they're going to do as a party, then that's on them. And people of good conscience who can't support abortion will go with people who do oppose it, even if they disagree with them on some other issues. Because abortion, you're right, abortion isn't the only issue. But then again, slavery wasn't the only issue in 1860, but it was the most important one. I would also say over the past 30 years that where abortion has been legally restricted, where laws have been passed at the local and state level to reduce funding for abortion, where there have been parental notification laws, informed consent laws, when the law has been put with pro-life values in it, those states have seen decreases in abortion. So when we do put pro-life laws into action, I would say it does decrease it. And to me, when something's illegal, most people choose to not do it because most people follow the law. What do you think of that?
Well, yeah, I agree. And I think that putting measures in place to expose people to the fact that they do have a choice, I think people sometimes feel funneled towards abortion by the aforementioned culture of death. So I think that not restricting it, but making the resources readily available, which there is a movement to do this. I do just think that when we step too far and we say, okay, well, we have all these measures in place, now let's try to actually make it fundamentally illegal, I think that we break the barrier between church and state, which is good for neither.
How would it, when you say a barrier between church and state, I suppose you're referring to the separation of church and state is actually not in the Constitution. It was in a letter I think Thomas Jefferson or another founding father wrote to the Danbury Baptists. But the Constitution does say Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. But how would passing a law that says unborn children cannot be aborted, human beings prior to birth have the same basic legal protections as human beings after birth, how does church and state involved in that at all? It's just a recognition of protecting human life.
It's about how we define life.
Why don't we just use a biological definition? Life, what we're talking about here, are individual members of the human species. And even pro-choice advocates agree fetuses and embryos are individual living members of our species.
That's a great point, and I can't wait to read about it in the book, Trent.
All right. Well, we will happily send you a copy of Persuasive Pro-Life and give our call screener your address, and we will get that sent right off to you. And thank you very much for calling.
Thanks, Ben. You don't even have to ask him what he chose. He chose the book over the video. But you get a choice. If you get through on the line today, we're going to send you either Persuasive Pro-Life or Making the Case for Life. Persuasive Pro-Life is Trent's book. The Making the Case for Life is his video. And all you got to do is get through and then give us your name and address, and we'll send those to you. Kenny in Chickasaw, is that right? Oklahoma, listening on 97.3 FM. You are on with Trent Horn. Your question, your comment, Kenny.
Well, I've got really a comment. I was listening to your show here, and the lady that was talking about Dr. Death and euthanasia and that whole conversation, and I just felt like I wanted to chime in on this one. I'm 41 years old and spent several months in neonatal unit. I was a little over 2 months premature, born in 1976, and I just wanted to make a comment that life is hard, and sometimes depression is hard, and but the bottom line is I am glad that the Lord gave me a chance to live, and that's what I think the whole point is you got to individualize these babies, and it's not our choice. And the way I see it, I think God is life, so I am pro-life.
Well, thank you so much, Kenny, for offering that comment, and that puts it well, eloquent in its brevity, that yes, life is hard, life is difficult, and a lot of us have different crosses to bear, but life is also good, and life is always a good thing, even when we have a lot of suffering, and that ultimately, to endure and understand suffering, as the Catechism says, there is no part of the problem of evil that isn't answered by the gospel. That ultimately our faith gives us the full answer to why evil and suffering happen and how God has given us the grace to endure that. And that this is but a fleeting, temporary suffering we endure in this vale of tears. And in the next life, we await an eternal weight of glory. Like this weight of glory balances with infinite weight, balances out whatever sufferings we have in this life. But this life is good and lives are good. That when we talk about abortion in general, you're right, it gets very abstract. But we're talking about here millions of individual lives, little boys and girls who have futures of experiences and hopes just like ours, some better, some worse experiences, but lives that are valuable nonetheless. And the pro-life movement is predicated on the idea that all life is valuable, that all human beings have equal worth and dignity, no matter what their particular life circumstances are.
Kenny, thank you very, very much for that call.
And have a blessed day.
You too. Have a blessed day. Again, we're giving away Persuasive Pro-Life, Trent's book for free, or Making the Case for Life, his DVD for free. You just call and get on the line, and then we'll get your address and send it to you, 888-318-7884. You can hear the music, which means we're heading towards a break, but we continue on this 45th anniversary of the Roe versus Wade decision, a conversation about life, and particularly about abortion. If you are a pro-choice person and would like to share with us why you are pro-choice, the lines are open for you today. Just give us a call, 888-318-7884. For those of you who are Joining us on Facebook or YouTube or Periscope, stay where you are. Trent's going to stay with us through the break, and we'll have a little between the hours conversation while we go to the radio break. 888-318-7884, the number. Why are you pro-choice? If you'd like to share that with us, give us a call. We'll be right back after this on Catholic Answers Live. Hi, everybody on Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope. Got Trent here with us. Trent via Skype. Just wanted to spend a few minutes with you, say hello. Someone asked me, Trent, early. I asked if anybody had any questions for you when we did this, and they said they want to know about your podcast. Anything you want to say about your podcast?
Yeah, it is on the way. I haven't officially revealed yet, the title and everything related to it, but yeah, it's going to be one we'll offer 1 to 2 episodes each week. And there's also going to be access to premium content for subscribers to the podcast. And the goal of it is I want to really equip people to defend our faith. And for a long time, I thought that if I just did these radio shows and kind of modeled it, that would be enough. And I wrote my books. But I think the next step I have to take is short podcast episodes where I give people a roadmap to defend our faith and how to talk about it in different conversations. So it's more of a direct kind of tutorial, which will be, content from me that I'll be talking about, and also interviews with people I think are the best of the best in the Catholic world on lots of different topics.
So now the podcast thing, is it video? Is it audio? It's
just audio, at least for now.
It's audio. Oh, so like it can go on. I know I seem really old when I ask these questions, but like iTunes or the Android store or the whatever or the Google. You can get it there. The Google.
Yeah, we're going to release it in all the iTunes markets, iTunes, Libsyn. You'll be able to access the free podcasts will be available to the general public, and the special exclusive ones where I'll be doing more in-depth work, refutations, interviews. So more of the premium content will be available to official subscribers at our Patreon page.
I want to tell you a few people who are saying hello to you, Trent, but a lot of people are, so I'm going to do my best. Julianne says, yo. Carlos says, hola, muchachos. Margot says, John says, I love you, Trent. You are a beast. Wow. I think that's good, but I'm not
at
sure.
least I'm not the beast.
Right. Like
from the Book of Revelation.
The mark
I'm
of
fine
Trent.
I'm fine being a beast.
Patrick asks, what does the pod mean in podcast?
I'm glad this is an open forum because I do not know the answer to that
I think
question.
I know. It's because it used to be that you would get them on your iPod. And so
it came out on an iPod.
Right.
Whoa.
Right.
And so it was a podcast?
Yeah, podcast. Right. I can't believe I knew something like technical. And wow. Let's see. Carlos says, Sai, you are old. Marlene says, Trent is awesome. You're getting way better comments.
I'm old too.
Okay.
No, I'm not, I guess.
Beth says, here's an interesting question. I want to see what you say about this.
Okay.
Can we hear Catholic Answers on the radio in Southern California? Relevant Radio has new programming. Excellent question, Beth. Why don't you call Beth and we'll send you Persuasive Pro-Life for free. You can hear us in Southern California. You can get us out in the Imperial Valley. I know that we played on the station out there. And there's a station in downtown San Diego. What's the call? What's the numbers? You don't have to... 93.7 in downtown San Diego, but you got to be downtown to get it. It's a LPFM. And El Centro, what's the one in El Centro? What's the you don't know. Catholic Radio in El Centro. Kristen wants one of us to come speak in Oregon. I'm guessing it's you. I would do it.
I love Oregon. I've been several times. I'd be happy to do that.
Adolfo says, Trent Horn, why are Latinos turning pro-choice?
I don't have the sociological information on that, but it could just be lack of education, lack of people being mobilized. There's a lot of great pro-life work in the English-speaking world. There's great stuff in the Spanish-speaking world, but it's got to do a lot of catch-up. I think we need more good people in the vineyard to reach out to that community.
Arthi says, hi, Trent. Alexis says, hi, Trent, hi, Sai. I like Alexis better. Marcia says, hello, Trent, the best. Wait, there's somebody I'm supposed to get to here? Oh, Cesar Morales has come to. Hey, Cesar says. Come
I love
to Texas.
I love Texas barbecue. I'll be out anytime.
All right, we got to go back on the air.
Welcome to Catholic Answers Live, the program where you participate with your questions about apologetics and evangelization, including the most important theological, spiritual, moral, and social issues facing the world today. Call now with your question for today's guest. Toll free 1-888-31-TRUTH. That's 888-318-7884. Now, from San Diego, Catholic Answers Live.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. I am Cy Kellett, your host. Delighted to be back here in the studio after a week away. Thanks so much to everybody who covered for me while I was gone, including Jerry, Don, and Chris Check, our boss here, Chris Check. By the way, I know how old Chris Check is because I found out that his birthday is this week. He's a baby, Trent. You wouldn't believe this youngster. He's 52. Persuasive Pro-Life is the book from Trent Horn, How to Talk About Our Culture's Toughest Issue. The video, Making the Case for Life. Our topic this hour is, why are you pro-choice? And we'd like to send you if you get through to us to tell us why you're pro-choice, we'd like to send you one of these really top-of-the-line pro-choice kind of explanations and arguments and cases so that you can have it. But we promise you a civil conversation if you'd like to share with us why are you pro-choice on this 45th anniversary of Roe versus Wade. 888-318-7884 is our number. If you like the spelling version, 888-31-TRUTH. Let's start right away. We got lots of calls, so let's go right to Leo driving through Mississippi, listening on 690 AM. Leo, why are you pro-choice?
Hi, thanks for having me. Well, I think I personally am in action, pro-life. I believe pro-choice is inclusive in that within it you have a choice of whether or not you're going to keep a child or abort a child. I don't think it should be made illegal or outlawed by the government. And I think also the culture of death. If we want to get beyond the culture of death that's ever more pervasive in our country, that we really need to think broadly about what "thou shalt not kill" means. We should outlaw the death penalty. We should educate our citizens on the options they have to keep their babies. We should try and facilitate that and bring people away from the culture of violence and the culture of death. In the same way that we keep firearms legal, but we educate people about the great responsibility it is to carry one of those machines of death, really, if you will.
Okay, well, Leo, let me jump in here, Leo, because I think there's a problem with your analogy, and I have a follow-up question. Firearms are legal. Well, actually, there is a right to carry and bear arms. That's in the Second Amendment of the Constitution. Abortion itself is nowhere in the Constitution. But we understand that firearms can be used and are primarily used for legitimate moral purposes, target practice, hunting, shooting contests, and for self-defense, which is perfectly moral and acceptable. But abortion is only used for one purpose that is immoral, which is ending the life of a human being. So since abortion does not have other legitimate purposes, you can't keep it legal like you would firearms, for example. Like, there's no way to use abortion properly, which is the killing of an innocent human being in the womb, to use it properly. It just is intrinsically evil. It's always wrong. Second, you said to create a culture of life, we should outlaw the death penalty. But more human beings will be killed by abortion were killed by abortion by lunchtime today. In one day by lunch, more humans died from abortion than have died from the death penalty since it was reinstated back in the 70s. So if we're going to build a culture of life by outlawing the death penalty, shouldn't we outlaw abortion as well?
I think those are great points. It's if I were to put myself, in my short life, what I've learned is that putting myself in the shoes of another person who may have circumstances that we're dealing with, their own cognitive or existential or spiritual journey that they're on, sometimes people believe in their hearts that their lives are in danger, that they're somehow that their path forward is to take that very ugly and frankly, I think, morally reprobate route.
So Leo,
Like, I'm
you
not
think we should make it legal for people to end an unborn child's life because some people have mistaken beliefs? Why should we care about their mistaken beliefs that can lead to a fatality?
I think that when the government gets involved in these matters, it's a bridge too far on the encroachment of people's freedoms. For example, as far as firearms go, I mean, it's a different topic, but I think they're primarily weapons of death and defense. But we have so many cases where people wield that power in the wrong ways because they believed in that moment that they were in physical threat. Was imminent death was coming to them. And
okay, so Leo, I'm sorry to jump in. We have to keep it moving here because we have limited time on the show. I agree with you. People can use a firearm or a gun improperly. They can also use it properly, where nobody gets hurt and no wrong is committed. So that makes sense. Firearms are legal. Can you describe a case where we directly kill a child through abortion and that's proper or moral to do?
I think that was exactly my point. If you make an improper choice with a firearm, it does not mean you should outlaw it. I believe there are people who, within their moral code, they should have the right to exercise that. In my moral code, I would not. That's why I believe in the choice of giving life.
But Leo, my argument, though, was that there are many proper examples you and I agree on that firearms can be used properly. In fact, I think you and I would agree. Would you agree the majority of firearms in this country are used properly and in a legal, moral way?
I don't have the statistical knowledge or I'm just not in everybody's shoes.
Okay, well, I mean, to put it in the numbers, there are 300 million firearms in this country. There's about 10,000 people who are killed by firearms every year. So given the hundreds of millions of guns that are available, the vast majority of them are used properly. They're not used to kill or hurt anyone. So since that's the case of firearms, that the vast majority of them are used properly, we wouldn't outlaw them just because a minority misuse them. But when it comes to abortion, there is not a single case where it can be used properly. It is always used to unjustly end a child's life. So I'm just going to try one more time. I want to see if you'll agree with me. Well, I'll just ask you the question because here's how I look at it. Is there ever a time where it's acceptable to directly kill an unborn child, to use abortion for that reason, to use it properly, so to speak?
In my opinion, no, I agree with you. But in civic matters, I just can't cross that bridge.
Okay, well, I mean, I think we've reached a bit of an impasse here in the discussion, but I think that ultimately that when it comes to abortion, when it comes to any disputed moral issue, we can't keep something legal just because people disagree about it. I mean, if that were the case, we could never pass laws for moral reform on anything. I mean, the 1964 Civil Rights Act forbade racial segregation in public accommodations, housing, restaurants. I mean, imagine if people said, yeah, well, but people don't agree with that, or some people think it is right, so we can't pass that law. The fact of the matter is there is objective moral truth we can come to through reasoning, and the people who have the best reasoning, the reasoning that's logical, that makes the most sense, that is backed by the evidence, that should be the reasoning that is the law of the land. And people who disagree, well, you have a right to your opinion. You just don't have the right to act on your opinion and hurt other people. So just because you say, well, people disagree with you about abortion. So people disagree about how, about racism. People disagree about all kinds of different issues. Mere disagreement, the absence of consensus, as Hadley Arks once said, is not the absence of truth. And I think the pro-life movement, the pro-life argument, it is true, and there's plenty of evidence for it. And unless somebody can give me a good reason against it, beyond just, well, people disagree with you, it makes sense that the law should reflect it and protect innocent unborn human beings. So I hope that's helpful for you, and thank you for calling in.
Thanks, Leo. We do have to take a quick break. The question of the hour, why are you pro-choice? Our guest, Trent Horn, the man who wrote the book, Persuasive Pro-Life, How to Talk About Our Culture's Toughest Issue, and made the video, Making the Case for Life, How to Talk About America's Toughest Issue. And you can have either of those free if you get through on the line today, 888-318-7884, the number 888-318-7884. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back after this on Catholic Answers Live.
Don't you just love listening to Trent Horn? Did you know you can book Trent or any of our other great speakers to speak at your parish or special event? Contact one of our seminar coordinators through the Speakers Bureau section on Catholic.com today to find out more information.
January is Pro-Life Month, and to get as many people as we can involved in the pro-life cause, we're making Trent Horn's book, Persuasive Pro-Life, available for just $5 a copy. That's a savings of over 70%. This book was made specifically with you in mind, to help you engage in sustained and meaningful dialogue, and to give you the tools you need to change people's hearts and minds, so that together we might build up a pro-life culture, one person, one conversation at a time. To get your copies of the book Persuasive Pro-Life for just $5 each, call 1-888-291-8000 or visit the shop at Catholic.com.
Just like the saints of the Counter-Reformation, our own souls are in constant need of reform, of reconversion to God and His will for us. We struggle with sin. We become distracted in prayer. We find it hard to be loving and easy to be selfish. In Reform Yourself, Sean McAfee shows you how these magnificent saints can be guides to your own personal transformation. We all need to reform our souls. Let the saints who reformed the church show you how. Order your copy of Reform Yourself today by calling 1-888-291-8000, visiting the shop at Catholic.com, or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
Catholic Answers Live is brought to you in part by CatholicSingles.com, the website for Catholics who want to meet others who share their faith and values for faith, fellowship, and love. You can learn more at CatholicSingles.com. Catholic Answers Live thanks CatholicSingles.com for their generous support.
Call now with your question, 888-318-7884. This is Catholic Answers Live.
Why are you pro-choice? That is our question for you today. We don't hide the fact that we are pro-life, that we believe in protecting human life in both policy and law from the moment of conception to natural death. But we are happy to talk with you about why you are pro-choice on this 45th anniversary of Roe v. Wade. Taking your questions today, Trent Horn, apologist here at Catholic Answers and author of many things. His most recent book is The Case for Catholicism from Ignatius Press, but we're giving away Persuasive Pro-Life to every caller who gets through today. If you'd like to get a copy of Persuasive Pro-Life for just $5, you can go to shop.catholic.com till the end of the month. It'll be there on sale for $5. That same price applies to the DVD, Making the Case for Life, also from Trent Horn. Our number here, 888-318-7884, 888-318-7884. Why are you pro-choice? We go now to Tammy in Columbus, Ohio, listening on 820 AM. Tammy, why are you pro-choice?
I, like a lot of people that are pro-choice, are not pro-choice for myself. We just don't feel like we can tell everybody else how to live their life. And with the last gentleman about the guns, Trent, you kept asking him what would be the justification for abortion, that there are law-abiding gun carriers and there are non-law-abiding gun carriers, but when is it ever correct to have an abortion? So I have one for you that I haven't heard you touch on yet. What about the woman's life being in danger, the mother?
Okay, sure. If a woman's life is in danger from a pregnancy, there's some kind of complication with the pregnancy, something wrong in her body or how the pregnancy is continuing. In this case, we have a situation where one or two people's lives are in danger, and so doctors would be justified in treating the disease, treating whatever the pathology might be that's causing harm, even if the child dies indirectly. So to clarify, what I meant with the previous caller would be direct abortion, which is ending the life of the unborn child specifically to cause that child's death, to end the pregnancy. Now, for example, if someone has uterine cancer, for example, that's spreading, they could receive radiation that treats the cancer, and the doctors are, they're attacking dangerous cells in her body that are multiplying, and it's unfortunate their treatment could cause the child injury, or the child might die as a side effect, but it's not intended. And we'd have a similar approach to something like ectopic pregnancy or other things like that, that if someone's life is in danger, we do what we can to save them, but we don't directly kill one person in order to save another person. But otherwise, though, in the vast majority of cases where abortions are performed, it's not done because anyone's life is in danger. It's because of a social or an economic reason that's generally offered. But the pro-life argument, I think it still holds, even in these cases, because we don't kill born people to save other born people. We shouldn't do that for the unborn. So what do you think of that?
What I think is that it is a terrible, horrible decision that couples agonize over. And I think there are a lot of couples, including the ones that I know specifically, and they happen to be Catholic, that would have been pro-staunch anti-abortion until this particular situation happened to them, and they were told if this baby stays inside the mother, she will die. They took the baby died when they took the baby out, and the mother's life was saved.
Well, Tammy, what are you referring to? A specific condition?
Well, I do know the baby did not have a brain, and that the baby's head was basically filling up with amniotic fluid and growing faster and faster and faster, and this was a very tiny woman. And I don't know the particulars because I'm not a doctor. I just
Right. Well, that sounds like a case of hydrocephaly or something like hydrocephaly and anencephaly, where a child's brain is not developing and the child's brain is actually growing and expanding with amniotic fluid. And there are ways of treating that without directly killing the child, for various draining techniques and things like that. And I would actually recommend for people who are listening, because we've touched a lot today on situations where there is a complication in pregnancy. Our friends at the National Catholic Bioethics Center have a team of ethicists, people trained to know what's the right. These are both who consult with and are medical professionals and ethical professionals who are able to consult one-on-one with people with their particular cases to let them know what is the most moral path and help them know if they've got good advice or bad advice from their doctors. So that's the National Catholic Bioethics Center, ncbcenter.org is where I'd recommend people going to. And so in that case, or if it's further along in pregnancy, especially if it's past 19 or 20 weeks, if there is a complication in pregnancy and a woman's life is in danger late in pregnancy, one can always do an emergency C-section. The child may still die if they're delivered that early, but here we give the child a chance. We don't simply directly end their life through a dismemberment procedure or a poisoning procedure associated with abortion. And so I'd recommend for you and our other listeners to go to the National Catholic Bioethics Center. There's also a great article by Father Tad Paholczyk called When Pregnancy Goes Awry that has some good points on this subject. So thank you for the insight and for calling in.
Again, 888-318-7884 is our number. Tammy, thank you so much for that call. If you are pro-choice and would like to share with us why you are pro-choice, we'd love to have that conversation with you. 888-318-7884. We go now to Marge in Vincennes, Indiana. You are on with Trent Horn. Marge, why are you pro-choice?
Hi, Trent. It's very nice to talk to you. I'm glad you got to me.
No problem. Thank you.
I am pro-choice because I believe that the church can help every woman, whether she has made the choice to have an abortion or not to have an abortion. I believe that the church is the best place for every woman to go for advice. Regardless of what faith they are, they can go and help them through whatever process they need help with.
Marge, let me ask you a question. I agree with you that the Catholic Church and many other nonprofits like Rachel's Vineyard do have great resources to help women who are post-abortive. And if someone's listening who has had an abortion, definitely contact a group like Rachel's Vineyard, and they have healing retreats that may be very beneficial. But why can't we have both? Why not make abortion illegal to protect the unborn? And then if someone has still chosen abortion, they can go to the church in confidence and, to go and seek help just for other people who have committed crimes, for example. Someone who, has killed someone through a DUI and has been punished for that and found guilty. The Catholic Church is still here to provide mercy and redemption and help them on a path towards God to turn away from this sin and find forgiveness. Why not protect the unborn by making abortion illegal and tell people to go to the church for help? Can't we do both?
I believe we can. I believe that is an excellent point. You do provide redemption and absolution for a murderer, a drunk driver that has killed someone. Why not do the same thing for a woman that has chose abortion?
Absolutely. And so I think that it's not an either-or case, and it's just difficult when people think it's either or, and it's definitely not. We can build up. People, like some of the previous callers said, well, instead of making abortion illegal, let's just build a culture of life. Why not do both? I gotta find this. To all our friends on Facebook, there is a meme with this young girl in an ad who says, "Why not both?" So somebody's got to put that meme together for me. You've got 40 minutes. I'm sure somebody can do that. We can build a culture of life and make abortion illegal.
Thank you for that call, Marge. 888-318-7884, our number. Trent Horn is our guest, and everybody who gets through, Marge, hang on, because everybody who gets through, we're sending either making the case for life or persuasive pro-life, both from Trent Horn to you. You get your choice. Again, if you are pro-choice, this is your hour. Why are you pro-choice? We go now to Rosa. Rosa, why are you pro-choice?
Well, it has to do with my sister becoming pregnant with her fourth child, having three healthy children at home. And the fourth child was diagnosed to have hydrocephalus. And every fantastic doctor, surgeon, neurosurgeon, professional that you can call into the affair was of the opinion that it was best to allow this baby to die, to be aborted, because chances were he was going to be quite literally a vegetable. And in my very Catholic family, the only wise guy who was in favor of aborting the child was me. And fortunately, no one yielded to my wishes, even though I was so gung-ho about it. I even brought a doctor into the family meeting, a doctor who had, a surgeon rather, who had experience with hydrocephalus, because I felt that strongly about my sister aborting the baby who was earlier than the 3rd month diagnosis of having hydrocephalus. And what my sister and her husband did, a former seminarian, they had been married over 20 years by this time, what they did was that they consecrated the pregnancy to the Holy Spirit and everyone in heaven. And to make a long story short, this young man is now 36 years old, has 3 children of his own, and completed a 4-year degree. Took him 6 years, but he completed a 4-year degree at a very prominent university.
The child who had hydrocephaly. Wow. I mean, that is just amazing, and it's very encouraging to hear this when people think that we should write off a child's life, that we should never write off a life. Sometimes a child's life may be lost in pregnancy. Sometimes it isn't, but it's not our place to directly take life because we think we know what's best. But thank you for calling.
Thank you so much for that. Trent Horn is our guest, all pro-choice callers for the next half hour. When we come back, we'll let some pro-life folks through. It's all up to you, pro-choice folks.
We're here for you. Give us a call today on Catholic Answers Live.
Hi, this is Trent Horn, and I'm here with a couple of very special offers for all of you interested in standing up for the rights of the unborn. January is Pro-Life Month, and to get as many people as we can involved in the pro-life cause, we're making my book, Persuasive Pro-Life, and my DVD, Making the Case for Life, available for just $5 each. That's a saving of over 70%. I wrote this book and I made this DVD specifically with you in mind, to help you engage in sustained and meaningful dialogue and give you the tools you need to change people's hearts and minds, so that together we might build up a pro-life culture, one person, one conversation at a time. To get your copies of my book, Persuasive Pro-Life, or my DVD, Making the Case for Life, for just $5, call 1-888-291-8000 or visit the shop at Catholic.com.
Is it possible to know when life begins? Shouldn't women be able to control their own bodies? What if a pregnant woman's life is in danger? In 20 Answers Abortion, you'll find smart, solid answers to these questions and many more. You'll deepen your understanding of this critical moral issue and gain the knowledge you need to explain it to others. 20 Answers Abortion is part of the 20 Answers series from Catholic Answers, offering hard facts, powerful arguments, and clear explanations of the most important topics facing the Church and the world, all in a compact, easy-to-read package. Visit shop.catholic.com and take a look at this exciting new series from Catholic Answers Press.
Looking for an on-fire Catholic speaker for your event? Catholic Answers speakers will inform and inspire your audience to grow in their Catholic faith. For more information on booking a Catholic Answers speaker, visit CatholicAnswersSpeakers.com today.
Why do we need Catholic radio? Because not everybody's sitting in front of a computer or watching their television set at home. How about when driving to work? Catholic radio's there for you. I may be a Catholic priest, but I'm still a student of the faith, and Catholic radio helps supply good material, whether it be a question and answer format show, whether it be a show itself on doctrine or theology. I myself, as a priest, am always learning.
Father Wade thinks Catholic radio is important. So should you.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. Today is the 45th anniversary of the Roe versus Wade decision being handed down by the United States Supreme Court. And in commemoration of that day, we're taking this opportunity to have a conversation between pro-life people and pro-choice people, and playing the part of the pro-life people is us, because Trent and I are both pro-life. I am Cy Kellett, your host. Trent is so pro-life that he writes books and makes videos about it. His book, Persuasive Pro-Life, How to Talk About Our Culture's Toughest Issue, is one of the best books you can read about how to talk about life issues and making the case for life. His video on the same topic, you can have either of those. If you are a caller today, we'll give it to you for free. If you'd like to buy it, you just go to shop.catholic.com, and they're both on sale for $5. Each of them is $5 at shop.catholic.com throughout the entirety of this month. 888-318-7884 is our number here. If you are a pro-choice person and you'd like to tell us why you are pro-choice, please give us a call. We'd love to have a conversation with you. We promise on our part to keep it civil. 888-318-7884, or if you prefer the spelling version, 888-31-TRUTH. Trent, I feel like I've shortchanged people a little bit because we went through 4 of your 5 myths about Roe versus Wade, but we didn't talk about Jane Roe. And so she's identified in the case Roe versus Wade. She's the plaintiff in the case as Jane Roe. That is not her real name, of course. But it's a myth to say, at least this is what you point out in your article on Catholic Answers magazine online, that she was a supporter of abortion rights.
Well, she was a supporter of them, and she wasn't a vocal advocate, but I mean, she believed abortion should be legal. She was trying to seek out a legal abortion in the state of Texas, and she couldn't get one. She tried to lie and say she had been a victim of rape, but that couldn't be corroborated. So 2 attorneys found her case, argued for it, but it took so long that Roe, Norma McCorvey, never ended up obtaining the abortion and put the child up, placed the child for adoption. But so later she still held that view. I think McCorvey worked at an abortion facility. But then later in the 1990s, in 1994, she quit her job at the abortion facility, became pro-life, and then 4 years later she was received into the Catholic Church. And since then she campaigned for the rest of her life to try to reverse the legacy she left in Roe versus Wade and opposed abortion up till the very end of her life. She passed away last February in 2017.
Yeah, it's an extraordinary story, and one of the many extraordinary sides to that story. But I think she was very ill-treated at the end of her life. She was treated like she's some kind of hick who doesn't have anything to say in this, and she, in fact, had...
Oh, yeah, I mean, the people who... she admitted in her own writings that when this case went to the Supreme Court, she was a pawn. Her situation, she was used specifically... that her lawyers, they didn't care about trying to get what was best for her. They saw a good story here and wanted to run with it to make abortion legal. And now, towards the end of her life, and people are reflecting on Roe versus Wade who are pro-choice, people don't want to hear from Roe, even though that she's changed her mind in that regard. So yeah, that's another myth. One people can check out in my article, 5 Myths About Roe versus Wade, at our Catholic Answers online magazine. Before we go to caller's side, there's an observation that just occurred to me that I think is important to share, because we had a lot of calls in these 2 hours on abortion in the case of fetal deformity or fetal demise. What about a child who is diagnosed with a terminal illness or a child who's going to suffer? And many people who are even against abortion, who think abortion is wrong, who you shouldn't have abortion for birth control, will support in this case because they want to be compassionate. But here's the problem with that you're going to end up going too far. If you justify abortion in these medical cases, like, well, this child will be born, or, they're going to die in the 3rd trimester, they may suffer then, or they may suffer for a few days after birth, so we should do a direct abortion so they don't suffer. What about the child born into poverty, born into difficult circumstances, who may suffer for 10, 20, or 30 years? If you care about reducing suffering, then it's not just going to be cases where the child is sick. You're going to justify abortion in cases where the child is healthy, where they may have a negative circumstance. And you're also going to justify cases where you have a healthy child, like let's say a child, like if we justify abortion in the case of anencephaly, the child's brain is injured severely, has not developed, then what about a 2-year-old who finds his dad's gun and blows the top of his head off? Tragic. And he's dying. Then you're going to justify direct euthanasia in that case, because essentially in that case, you have a 2-year-old who has an injury, a terminal condition like anencephaly. And as we saw many of the callers, they say, well, yeah, we should euthanize that 2-year-old. But then where does it stop? As I said, another caller, I said, should we, help people commit assisted suicide who are in wheelchairs? When you value the reducing of suffering over all else, it leads to inhumane barbarism and the degradation of human life.
Yeah, that's right, and that's where we are now, isn't it?
It is.
We live in
Yeah.
a society that has just degraded the value of human life.
It's not what you are that matters.
It's what you.
It's what you can do.
Yeah,
and
that's-
about your suffering or not, basically.
Again, all our lines are open to pro-choice folks. If you are a pro-choice person and would like to tell us why you are pro-choice after these 45 years with abortion on demand throughout the United States, give us a call, 888-318-7884. Andy, why are you pro-choice? Hi, Andy.
Hi. I had an abortion at 14, not by my choice, but my parents' choice, who are Catholic. And so am I. And
I'm sorry
so
to
I
hear
guess I am now pro, I don't know. What do I do? Can I get, I'm 21 now. Can the church help me with, I mean, I know they help me with counseling, but what about, I mean, I'm going to go to hell for this because my parents decided I had to lose my baby because I was 14. That's not fair.
You're right.
It's not fair, Andy. It's not fair.
You're right. That's absolutely not fair. That your parents coerced you, took someone, an impressionable minor, that a parent's job is to protect their child. And your parents failed you in that regard, and failed you in one of the worst ways in forcing you to be in a condition where you were unable to protect your own child. And it's understandable that the pain you're feeling right now, it's natural to feel that kind of pain, the loss, grief, even a sense of guilt. But it sounds to me that you understand that what happened was wrong, and you wish very, very much it had never happened. And so what I would recommend to you then is to take all this pain, take all of any guilt you might feel, grief, anger towards your parents, take all of this that's weighing down your soul, and give it over to Jesus Christ. Give it over to God and say, God, take this from me. Take that Jesus bore all of our sins on the cross. And in the first letter of Peter in the Bible it says that because God cares for us, we can cast all of our anxieties onto him. And I hope you will do that. And maybe to go see a priest or, continue to receive counseling. You'll be on a spiritual journey here to heal from what happened to you. But then through all of it, to not let the weight of your past keep you from God in the present and in the future. And so what I'm going to recommend is that you stay on the line, and we're going to get your contact information, and we'll put you in touch with our chaplain, and he can help walk you through and make sure that you're able to get the resources you need to heal from what happened to you and to find peace with God and peace with your child. That above all else, when you feel weighed down by this, remember that you can have a hopeful trust that your child is in heaven, praying for you now, and doesn't want you to be weighed down by this, wants you to be healed too. And so we stay on the line, we'll get you information, and it may be helpful to go, maybe attend a Rachel's Vineyard retreat to meet other women who were actually in similar situations as well. So Andy, please stay on the line, and we will get you information and send you along, and I'll ask for our listeners to pray for you as well.
Okay, Andy?
But you didn't answer my question.
Wait,
what was the how
question?
how could you get help?
No. Does the church offer me the same thing like the lady Marge
was asking or saying that you guys offer absolution for murderers. Well, that's what I am.
Well, Andy, let me. You took part in an abortion, but in order to be guilty of the sin of murder or the sin of abortion, you'd have to freely consent to that. That's why I want you to talk to our chaplain, and he can put you in touch with a priest to know how much you did or did not cooperate with this. That a person is not guilty of a mortal sin if they don't freely choose it. But I will tell you that the church has the ability, because Jesus founded the Catholic Church, any sin can be absolved. So that's why we can't, that whatever you're dealing with or any sin you want to be forgiven, Christ stands ready in the sacrament of confession to forgive that sin. If you think you've sinned, Andy, and you want forgiveness, Christ stands ready to forgive through the sacrament of confession, through providing absolution. But I want you to talk to a priest about this at length to really go through your story, because there may actually be nothing to seek forgiveness for if you were pressured or forced to have an abortion. So that's why I want you to talk to our chaplain, talk to someone in depth, but whatever you need right now, the church has the resources for you, including absolution, if that's necessary. So please stay on the line, and we'll get you those resources.
Andy, thank you so much for that call. Please hang on the line, because we'd love to get you in touch with Father Hugh. He's a wonderful priest. We're very proud of him, and we'd love to have you talk with him. We do have to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more. Why are you pro-choice today on Catholic Answers Live? We'll get to more calls after this.
Why are you pro-choice? Call now. Trent is waiting to talk to you.
January is Pro-Life Month, and to get as many people as we can involved in the pro-life cause, we're making Trent Horn's book, Persuasive Pro-Life, available for just $5 a copy. That's a savings of over 70%. This book was made specifically with you in mind, to help you engage in sustained and meaningful dialogue and to give you the tools you need to change people's hearts and minds, so that together we might build up a pro-life culture, one person, one conversation at a time. To get your copies of the book Persuasive Pro-Life for just $5 each, call 1-888-291-8000 or visit the shop at Catholic.com.
Is it possible to know when life begins? Shouldn't women be able to control their own bodies? What if a pregnant woman's life is in danger? In 20 Answers Abortion, you'll find smart, solid answers to these questions and many more. You'll deepen your understanding of this critical moral issue and gain the knowledge you need to explain it to others. 20 Answers Abortion is part of the 20 Answers series from Catholic Answers, offering hard facts, powerful arguments, and clear explanations of the most important topics facing the Church and the world, all in a compact, easy-to-read package. Visit shop.catholic.com and take a look at this exciting new series from Catholic Answers Press.
St. Paul's street evangelization isn't like other evangelism you might have seen on the streets. We don't yell, and we don't force anyone to pay attention to us. Instead, St. Paul's street evangelization is committed to presenting a positive, passionately Catholic presence to a world hungry for truth. For more information, or to start a chapter of your own, go to www.streetevangelization.com. That's streetevangelization.com. It's time to do our part.
Call now with your question. 888-318-7884. This is Catholic Answers Live.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. Today we ask you, why are you pro-choice? If you're a pro-choice person, we welcome your call. I just want to let you know, Trent, that earlier there was a caller who said it would be better to create a culture of life than to make abortion illegal. And you asked for a meme, and Kristen on Facebook made the meme. So if anybody wants to visit our stream right now, live stream on Facebook, you can see the meme. It says, Wait, I just have to read it. I'm sorry. It's not up on my computer at the moment.
Well,
create a culture of life or make abortion illegal. And then the little girl says, why don't we have both? And then everyone cheers. So that's the
Well, it was, this meme is just everywhere. It's one of those pretty famous memes. I think it was originally like screenshots from a Latin American like queso or dip or chip commercial.
Oh, okay.
And then it's like, do we have this kind of chip or this one? And it's like, why don't we have both? And everyone's like, yay! And so now you can find it everywhere. And so, yes.
Now we can
thank
have
you.
both.
Thank you, Kristen, for the meme. I will put it on my social media here shortly.
Thanks, Kristen. We go now to Craig driving through Colorado. Well, that's a pretty nice thing to be doing. Craig, why are you pro-choice?
Well, if you totally outlawed abortion, then what about the cases of rape and incest, and if the mother is, if her life is in peril, or and then the other thing about the kids that aren't going to be born healthy and have a productive, meaningful life. So if you outlaw it all, then what happens to them? And also, what about the women that are going to go ahead and still seek out people to give them abortions and really tear them up and really mess them up bad?
Okay. Craig, let me ask you a few questions so that you can see where I'm coming from on this. Are there abortions you agree are wrong and should be illegal?
After a certain trimester, yes, but before that, I don't think so.
Which trimester would that be?
After the second.
Why did you pick that point?
That's when I don't know.
Well, I mean, Craig, let me ask you a follow-up then to that. I mean, if we pick a point, like abortion is the direct killing of a living human being. So if we're going to pick where we draw the line, where it's okay or not okay, would you agree we should have a really, really good reason where we draw that line?
Yes.
Okay. So if we just
I'll
simply
agree.
draw the line at like the second trimester and say, well, I just drew it there because, someone else might say, well, I drew the line at birth, or I drew the line at like 1 year. For me, here's where I draw the line. That no matter how young a human being is, no matter how young you are, you have the right to life, the right to be treated with dignity and respect. Even from the very first day you began to exist in your mother's womb at conception. Now, let me answer some of the difficult cases you brought up. First, all of them come back to the main question, which is, what are the unborn? Because if the unborn are human beings, we should treat them humanely. So if someone, is a victim of rape or incest, the child that's been conceived is still a human being. We wouldn't kill the child after they're born because they look like the rapist. In our country, we don't even execute the rapist for committing rape. But the child didn't do anything wrong. So it's not fair to end their life just because of something their father has done. So I think that makes sense that we're treating them fairly and justly by not committing another act of violence through abortion in the same way rape's an act of violence. Now, if a woman's life is in danger, a doctor can go in and fix whatever's wrong or attack the problem, and maybe the child might die unintentionally from the medicine being used, but that's not the same as directly killing the child. That human being an innocent human being shouldn't be directly killed, no matter how young or old they are. So, do you see where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, but then you're putting the victim has to live that every day for 9 months, and then see the child or not see the child, and still know that she had to carry that kid for 9 months because she got raped.
Craig, did you just tune in? Did you happen to hear Andy's call right before you, the woman who had an abortion?
Yes, I did. Yes.
She was pretty upset, wasn't she?
Very sad thing.
Yeah, so it seems to me I'm glad that you want to make sure a woman who's a victim of rape is able to heal, and that we don't want her to go through stuff she shouldn't have to. But I think you and I would agree that no matter what she does, nothing ever erases the fact or the memory that she was raped, right?
Right.
Yeah. So nothing's ever going to do that. So the question is, what's the best way to move forward? And I think it's a really bad idea to involve her in abortion, because then we're just adding another trauma for her to regret and pain to carry. And this one's even harder than rape, because here you have the added sense of knowing you chose to do this to your child. And if you heard Andy, I mean, and that was cutting her right to the core. And she was really forced into an abortion. Imagine someone who was enforced, who freely chose to do this. That's not something I'd wish upon anybody, even including someone who is a victim of rape or incest. So I think if we look at that, if we care about people's healing, we don't want to recommend abortion, because that just adds more trauma to the situation. So I hope that's helpful for you, and thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you, Craig. Enjoy that trip across Colorado. We go now to Michelle in Eugene, Oregon. Michelle, why are you pro-choice?
I'm pro-choice because I see it as analogous to miscarriages, which are natural. You've read some papers where over 66% of pregnancies in the first trimester naturally abort. When they naturally abort, they're called miscarriages.
Right.
So the way I see abortion is it's a miscarriage, except it's a miscarriage that the woman and or the family chooses to have.
Okay. Let me offer you an analogy, Michelle, where I think that there is a problem here with your reasoning, and this might show it. There are some times in the history of the world, and even today in some rural developing countries, like in rural provinces of Afghanistan, there's places around the world where the child mortality rate is 50%. There are places in the world, and this has been true throughout history, and in a few places today even, where half of all children will not make it to the age of 5. And it's sad. But imagine if someone said that infanticide or killing a toddler is okay in those places and times, because a lot of children die naturally anyways. Just because someone is likely to die naturally, it doesn't give us the right to kill them. I mean, in theory, 100% of human beings will die. But that doesn't give us the right to kill a human being. What do you think of that?
I understand your logic, but I think in our culture and in most cultures, we make a natural demarcation that occurs at birth. And after birth, all societies have rules about killing. I don't know if all societies do. There may be some where infanticide is still legal. I'm not certain. But we certainly do, as do most other Western Judeo cultures.
Well, Michelle, the reason that infanticide has decreased so much around the world is simply because abortion is now much more available. That, prior to the 19th century, abortion procedures were still, they weren't necessarily the safest procedures around. They definitely weren't safe for the child, and they actually weren't that safe for the woman either. So what happened there is that infanticide became much less common around the world because people chose abortion. Now, you're right. People understand that birth is a milestone. I mean, this is the point where a child does not live solely in their mother's body, but we can hold them, we can touch them. There's a cultural change here. There's a social change, but there's not a biological change. It's still the same baby before and after birth. So it seems to me that if we understand infanticide is wrong, and if abortion just happens as a replacement for infanticide, it seems to me abortion is wrong also, even though it happens earlier. So I think that once again the logic is clear. Just because there's a time and place where human beings might die naturally, even at a high rate, doesn't justify directly killing those human beings. And we do put differences, before and after birth, but in some cultures, people celebrate conception days. 9 months before your birth is when you were conceived. So we should value life before and after birth, even if we have different social conventions for how we treat children after birth. But thank you for your call.
And Michelle, don't go anywhere. You're the last person who's going to get it, but you get a free book or video if you stay on the line. Trent Horn Thanks for just a fantastic hour. Well, a couple hours. That's a lot of
Yeah.
work. You put in a work day when you come here.
It's always a joy, and I think this is an important day, and for pro-lifers who are listening, it's been 45 years. Don't give up and don't lose heart. It takes decades. Sometimes it takes centuries to fight for the rights of disenfranchised groups of people. So you can't give up. You got to keep fighting, and we're doing it bit by bit. We're building a culture of life. We're making headway.
You know, Trent, for hundreds of years, the rights of human beings have been extended to more and more people. They will be extended to the unborn. It's just a matter of time.
It's the moral arc, as it's called, and with God's help, we will get there.
Amen, brother. Trent Horn, our guest. Look forward to the podcast starting before too long. Tomorrow, open forum, both hours. See you there, God willing, on Catholic Answers Live.